Solar Warlock is now the undisputed strongest build in Destiny 2 with the nerf of the Heart of Inmost Light Titan build. And it even received a buff this season. Today, I'm going to be showing you a couple combinations of Solar Warlock builds I plan to use in the Day 1 raid on March 10th. If you end up finding this video helpful, drop a like on the video as well as subscribing with post notifications on for more Lightfall content. With this build, we'll be taking three things into consideration: ad clear, survivability, and DPS. First off, we're going to be using Empowering Rift with Fusion Grenades. This combo actually goes hand in hand as they both regenerate each other. For example, whenever you pop an Empowering Rift, you can do damage to enemies while standing in the rift to quickly regenerate your fusion grenades. And also with the Starfire Protocol exotic, which I will explain later in this video, you will immediately get your rift back whenever you get a kill with a grenade. Now let's talk about aspects. We're going to be going with Icarus Dash. While Heat Rises is active, you have an additional dodge, while Airborne, rapidly defeating targets with your super or weapon grants Cure to you. This is very good for survivability and also movement. Next we'll be using Touch of Flame. Your healing, solar, firebolt, and fusion grenades have enhanced functionality. Now in this video we're going to be using fusion grenades, so this aspect actually allows your fusion grenade to explode twice. Now for fragments, there are several different options you can use, but I will list the set of fragments that I prefer to use, which include Ember of Resolve, Solar Grenade, Final Blows cure you. Ember of Tempering, Solar Weapon Final Blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration. Stacks 3 times. Creates a fire sprite on solar weapon kills while active as well. Ember of Ashes, you apply more scorch stacks to targets. Ember of Torches, powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. Ember of Wonder, rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions generates an orb of power. Lastly, Ember of Blistering, defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy. Now, my personal 4 favorite to run for raids are Ember of Resolve, Ember of Ashes, Ember of Tempering, and Ember of Blistering. But you can try out different fragment combinations for different activities. Since this video is mainly covering a build that I will be using in the raid, we will be going with this for now and taking all factors into consideration. Let's now review the artifact perks that you need to have applied. Remember, these don't need to be applied to your armor anymore. We will be skipping over any sections that are not directly applicable to this build. The first column mods are just anti-champion mods, so we will move on to the second column. In column 2, you want to make sure you have authorized mods solar, authorized mods grenades, and multi-siphon mods. In column 3, you want to use shatter orbs, which reads, the first time you break a combatant's shield, you create an orb of power if you break the shield with a matching damage type. Also, Solar Surge, which reads, collecting a fire sprite gives you armor charge. For column 4, we won't specifically be covering any of these as they don't directly apply to this build. In column 5, you want to use Prismatic Transfer, which reads, when you cast your super, each member of your fire team with a subclass damage type different than yours gains a bonus to weapon damage, which is fantastic for DPS. Next, let's move on to armor mods. On your helmet, use Solar Siphon for generating orbs and 2 Ashes to Assets mods. However, you can alternatively use triple Ashes to Assets if your teammates are generating lots of orbs for your team. On your gauntlets, use Triple Grenade Kickstart, which allows you to get a ton of grenade energy back simply by using your grenade, and that is boosted when you have armor charge, which works by picking up orbs of power. On your chest piece, I would recommend using triple damage resistance mods, as especially in raids, many enemies are going to hit very hard. On your leg armor, use 3 weapon surges depending on your weapon energy type. For this example, I have a Hothead and a Witherhorde, so I want to use triple arc weapon surges, or alternatively 2 arc weapon surges and 1 kinetic weapon surge for Witherhorde. Lastly, on your bond, you can use different amounts of bomber and time dilation. Time dilation allows you to increase the time that you have armor charge upon orb pickup, and it stacks up to 3 times. Personally, I like to use 2 time dilation mods and 1 bomber mod, but alternatively, you can use 2 bomber mods and 1 time dilation, or even 3 time dilation mods if you want to as well, since bomber isn't really necessary. Lastly, let's talk about some weapon options. For your primary, I would recommend using Witherhorde, as it is very good for regenerating your fusion grenades and closing off ad doors in different encounters, as well as good boss damage. If your team already has a Witherhorde or 2, you can use Izanagi's Burden for DPS or even Arbalest. For your secondary slot, I recommend one of the 2 weapons in particular, Callous Mini Tool with Threat Detector and Incandescent, or Retrace Path with Subsistence and Incandescent. You could also use Sunshot if you don't plan on using Witherhorde, as Sunshot has received a new rework in Lightfall to apply Scorch stacks on kills. Keep in mind as well, you'd also have to run a legendary weapon in the primary slot so that you could run this. For your heavy slot, it is all up to whatever DPS method your team is using. My team is using rockets in this scenario, so I'll be using Hothead. Your heavy weapon will also determine what weapon surge mods you run on your boots. Overall, this Starfire Solar Warlock build is going to perform very well in the Day 1 raid, and I highly recommend using it if you do end up using Warlock. It has great ad clear DPS and survivability all in one. If you enjoyed today's video, consider subscribing with post notifications and dropping a like, as well as commenting what builds, DPS tests, guides, farms, etc. you'd like to see from me Lightfall related. Have a fantastic rest of your day, Guardians, and peace.